Rachel.
And I'm Amanda.
This is episode 27 of Books and Bingos. This week we'll be recommending books you should be on the lookout for this month. What is the best month of the year, Amanda, and why is it October?
Okay, you can tell that Rachel wrote this question, okay? Because if it were me, it would have said December because I'm a Christmas girly and Rachel's a spooky Halloween girly. We talked about this in our Leaves on the Cover episode, but I really wish that we had seasons in Texas, okay? Because I think I would be so down for October if I felt those like weather vibes, okay? Not to mention the fact that in October we have 0 days off, right? It is a long drought from our fair day in September until Thanksgiving. Like it is so long. So I'm always a little about October, but I love the concept.
We do get a day off in October every year, like a conference exchange day, which is really nice. And I think Halloween is just such a tremendous experience because it's probably like the best holiday with the least amount of effort. Like you go grab some candy and you're good, you know? Uh, all the other holidays is like cooking all of this food and making sure your house is all clean and buying all these gifts. It's like so much effort that you're burnt out by the time it comes. Halloween, you can just sit back and enjoy, and it's just all the spooky stuff. I love it. I love
Okay,
it.
I'm gonna say, okay, so for someone that hates when people come to her house, this is my nightmare. Somebody ringing my doorbell asking for something from me is like, I turn my light off. Like, I am that
Oh,
person. I am
oh
so sorry.
no. For shame. I do set up like outside so that they're not like ringing the doorbell, but I have like steps up to my house and the little ones are always like having a real hard time. So I just moved the whole shebang outside. It's just fun to see everybody in their little costumes, and it's just a perfect night.
That's adorable. I love that. You love it so much.
I do. All right, Amanda, tell us about your first October new release.
Okay, so I am going to be talking about Unsinkable Cayenne by Jessica Vitalis. This is a middle grade historical fiction. So if you know me, I'm not huge on historical fiction, but I do love this author. This is follows Cayenne, who is 12 years old. And I know it's so weird that historical fiction, but it's set in the mid 80s. So that's when Rachel and I were born. So it's so funny to say that's historical fiction, but it
It
is. And
is.
and Cayenne has moved her whole life. Her parents are nomadic hippies. The dad was in Vietnam. The mom loves to live from the earth and hates anything processed, anything quote unquote normal. So they've been nomadic, living out of a van, pretty much Cayenne's whole life. She's never had a friend, never been to school. She does homeschool with her mom. But Cayenne and the dad beg the mom, can we please settle down somewhere? So dad gets a job at a plant in Montana, and it's a small town, but Cayenne's so excited. They have a house they're renting. It may not be the prettiest one in the neighborhood, but it's theirs, right? And so popularity and fitting in, surprise, surprise, are still a big part of middle school life, even in the 80s. And it makes it hard because Cayenne, they have very, very little money, and their hippie ways make them weird, right? From the food that she eats to the clothes that she wears. The fact that like they can't afford to buy her shoes because like they're worried about the electricity bill next week. So as Cayenne starts to learn how to fit in and starts getting a crush on a boy and making a friend and all this kind of stuff, she's also learning who she is and the concessions that she will make and what she won't make in regards to popularity, right? Because I think that that's kind of a journey that some kids go through. Some of them are 100% like, yeah, I'll do whatever to be popular. And some have to realize where their boundaries and their lines are to make that decision, be like, no, like I'm going to be true to who I am and I'm not going to follow along with everyone else, right? So it's a unique middle grade historical fiction novel in verse. It brought in elements of family dynamics. The whole thing, like the reason it's called Unsinkable, because it's a reference to the Titanic, the unsinkable Molly Brown, right? And so because in school they're learning about the Titanic wreckage that had just been found, like from 1912 to the mid 80s. It was in the news at the time. And so there's this debate, do we bring the wreckage up or should we leave it as like a burial ground? And so that whole conversation was really interesting to learn about. But it also deals with like classism. The mom is very about being green and healthy and what it's like to try and fit in when you're a tween or a teen. If you have read Stargirl or The Remarkable Journey of Coyote Sunrise, then you will love this book. Lots of great lessons. I could see this being a great read aloud or book club, book study in a upper elementary, lower middle school classroom. This one comes out October 29th. Content warnings would be classism, poverty, homelessness, bullying, drug use, depression, job loss. Bingo Squares Outdoorsy 2024 release, leaves on the cover. Book setting you'd like to visit. So that's my book.
All right, you had me for a while, but then you did a comp of Remarkable Journey of Coyote Sunrise, and I have been warned that that will make me cry. So is
Oh
this one
yeah.
gonna make me cry?
No, that's not the reference I meant with that. Like how Coyote and her dad are traveling around in a bus
Okay.
was the relation to that. No. Yes, don't read Remarkable Journey of Coyote Sunrise, Rachel. You will not survive that one.
No, I will not.
But this
Okay.
one you could definitely read.
Okay, this gave me very schooled vibes by Gordon Corman too,
Yes.
which is one of my favorite Gordon Corman books. So this sounds very, very interesting. I like the idea of like the culture shock of going to like a public school. That's
Right.
very, it really gets to like the crux of what school is to the kids, you know?
Absolutely. And I just loved how many issues it without being too heavy-handed or too overloaded with all the things, right? Like I think it hit on each thing really great. And I love a novel in verse, so I'll
Yes,
read those any day.
yes. They're growing on me for sure. All right, my first pick is called Romancing the Everyday by Andrea Kasperzak. This is an adult nonfiction based title. It covers 52 ideas to make your life more romantic and luxurious with someone special or all by yourself. So the big vibes were like, think, eat the cheese. She talks about how eating cheese is like giving your brain like the good vibes. So like if you're feeling stressed, you need to eat the cheese and like take some bubble baths and stargaze and have some flowers and plants in your home and just finding enjoyment in the day to day. And I think that's a message that we don't spread enough because we don't have a lot of big moments in our life. Like those are few and far between. Our life is made up of all the little moments. And so you have to make those little moments more enjoyable. And I think that's very much what this book was trying to relay. Very like Hygge vibes, the general message being just to slow down and remember that the small moments are the key. You got to make them great. And so I think some of these were a little more practical than others, but even just the way the book was written, it was very like, I don't know, just like kind of slow pace, like just slowing down, kind of leisure. So I think this whole reading experience just again underscores the message of making the most of the moments you have and making a little romantic atmosphere for yourself, which I loved. And the Mako squares for this one would be 2024 release, nonfiction, romance in a kind of non-traditional sense. This is out October 1st and a very quick read, so I highly suggest it.
Oh, this is so. If I had a list of books to pick of what I thought Rachel would read, this is like at the top. This is so you. I love it. And I
Yes.
just love the idea of like treat yourself, but like
Yeah.
being intentional with it, not necessarily
Yes.
like spending all this money or
Yes. It's not about spending all the money and doing all the things. It's about like making the best of the moment, you know? Like
right.
do what you need to do at that moment to be like at peak living.
Yes. Yes. I love that idea. That's great. Now I just have to actually do it.
Yes, it's hard, but you got to make
Yeah.
this time.
Okay. Be more intentional. That's what I need to do.
I'm very excited to hear about this one. I saw a little blurb that you wrote, and I'm very excited. So tell us about your second one.
Okay, so if I had to pick a YA thriller to recommend to Rachel, it would be this one. Okay. This is The Bitter End by Alex Dunn. It is a YA thriller. It falls under the snowed in theme, which if you have followed Rachel and I for a while, we both love that thriller genre. It also is like, And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, which is one of my all-time favorite mystery thrillers ever written. Um, so the students of LA's elite Warner Prep can't wait for their senior excursion. So while everyone else is going to like Paris or Alaska and like all these like crazy trips, these 8 kids get stuck doing a digital detox at an isolated Colorado ski chalet. So, of course, we have like an influencer in the group. And so to give up her phone is like the worst thing that she can think of. And they're going up with their school counselor, right? So, it's very remote. They start having like a blizzard the second they get there. And it's also super boring, right? Because it's different groups of kids from like different cliques. Like some of them are friends, whereas some of them are exes, some of them are like ostracized kids. So it's not like all from the same like clique at school. And but then one of them dies. And it's under mysterious circumstances. So like they're not immediately like we have a murderer around here. It's like he was exposed to nuts, right? And he's allergic. So it could have been something that's easily explained away. But then another one dies, and another one dies, and another one dies. And it turns out that this trip is no accident. Each one of them has a secret. And so, as each one of them is like getting targeted and each one is dying, they start to learn about some of the secrets that each of them have and why they might have been killing it off, right? It goes back and forth in the timeline from 3 years ago when all of these kids were at a party and something happened at that party. So it's very like, I know what you did last summer kind of thing, but 3 years ago. And now that they're seniors, it's finally catching up to them what they did at that party. And so there's a lot of point of views in this one, right? So we have 8 kids. So almost all of them get at least one chapter. So it takes a little bit to really learn the characters and like get inside their minds. But if you love the trapped on a mountain in a snowstorm thriller, this is for you. This book releases October 15th, and the bingo squares would be Mystery 2024 release, Cold Weather. Obviously, the content warnings would fall under death, murder. There's some talk about unwanted touch, and just bullying, cyberbullying, things of that nature. But very, very good book. I'm glad I picked it. And I finished it like 5 minutes before we started filming. So
That sounds right up my alley. I'm literally gonna have to go read this book like as soon as we hang up. I
yeah,
am so excited for this. I love when they're isolated somewhere cold and then they start dying one by one. That is literally like the best setup ever. I will read it all day, every day.
yes,
This is giving me like the Breakfast Club meets, and then there were none. So
right?
I'm excited.
Yes, that's a good way to say it.
All right. My second pick is a graphic novel that I can't believe you didn't read and recommend called Swing by Audrey Meeker. It's a middle grade realistic graphic novel with some sporty elements. And we have 2 unlikely students that are paired together in gym class for a dance assignment. They're randomly paired together and they're randomly assigned to do swing dance. And it all just goes horribly wrong. They don't get any credit for it, which they need, and they are offered the chance to perform at the talent show and try their dance again to get it right this time to get the credit. But there's a lot of tension between the two, a lot of hurt feelings between the two, and they may not even make it to the talent show at all. I thought this was a very cute story, super relatable for students, all about fitting in and finding yourself in spite of the expectations others might have for you. For instance, one of the characters doesn't really like soccer, but his family and his friends all expect him to be a really good soccer player, and he's kind of struggling with that boundary line. So it's very interesting to see them um, kind of coming into their own in the middle school setting. Like I said, very realistic. I think it'll be something the kids will really enjoy reading. It has such cute colors too. I really like the kind of like pastel effect. It's very kind of relaxing. This one comes out October 22nd, and the content warnings are for bullying and anxiety, and the squares are would work for a 2024 new release.
Yes, I have this one on my TBR. I just haven't gotten to it yet, but it looks adorable. I love swing dancing. So
I've read a graphic novel before you have,
you
like
did.
down. This is probably the only time in history. I'm excited.
I'm sure it'll happen again.
We'll see. And those are our recommendations for the week. If you have questions, suggestions, or comments, reach out on social media at Books and Bingos or email us at booksandbingos@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and join us again next week when we'll be highlighting author Tiffany D. Jackson. Happy reading!